So now whatever that Manish went through, let's unpack, So the claim of 3067, I'm asking a question, of course, to myself. It's a bit of a rhetorical question. Is it a juvenile? Is it a foolish, a fraudulent claim, or all of the above? Now it's a very strong language. Huh? Or none of the above. Yeah, let's give that benefit of doubt, right? Again, the same framework here. I showed you this, where is my theory, where is the statement, and I asked the question, what is the theory for 3067? There was no clear statement, and I said that there is no clear statement of the theory. In fact, he gave 3 different ways he's interpreting the evidence. I'll tell you, if somebody, and this is not limited to 3067, I'll stick to 3067, no other Mahabharata researcher has dare make a clear, universal, generic statement for their claim of the year of Mahabharata war. And I also tell you, based on what they have done, the moment they make a generic, universal statement of their theory, again, their theory will instantaneously fall off. That's how, in a quagmire, their evidence is and their claims are. Okay? So let's look at this first one, which is, what is the problem here? This is the crux, and therein lies the rub, because look at the first top statement of the Einstein. It is the theory that describes what we can observe. So for example, when he said some of them are comets, what is your original statement? Some of the planetary names are comets. Well, that's not generic. How do you decide which one are comets and which one are planets and so on? Okay. The next one, selective observation. Manish, I picked 12. There could be more. I understand that. Okay. But Professor Achar had picked 12 out of 23 original Professor K.S. Raghavan. So I picked that number. It's a cherry picking fallacy, and it's also, scientifically speaking, it's an inconsistency. Quickly, if you have few data points and you want to draw a line that goes through few points, any fool can do that. You can close your eyes and draw a line, and more than likely few points will fall on the line. The trick is to solve the whole jigsaw puzzle and explain every point, okay? Or at least admit which of the points you could not explain, okay? Then the objective testability, again Arundhati Vasishtha I showed as a good example. Same thing for Bhishma Nirvana, same thing for season, as I'm going to show you. And the last one, the law of parsimony. That's important in science, like you use minimum of explanation to explain a lot more stuff. Just do the quick comparison, astronomy and Mahabharata text, that's all I need for my claim. Here, this is a kind of a package starting with Professor Srinivas Raghavan to Achar through now Dr. Manish Pandit. Astronomy, Mahabharata, omens, astrology, planets as comets, you heard that. Kali Yuga. Now, Professor Achar goes on saying we did not use Kali Yuga. I'll show you how the Kali Yuga is used. Circular reasoning, assume equinox at Jeshta. There is no evidence in Mahabharata text. Linguistic mumbo jumbo. I may not have a time to go through that, okay? But it's in the book and I'll mention that. Tradition, the Gita Jayanti, the Margashirsha Shukla 11, or the second fact, Magha Shukla Ashtami, is the tradition. There is no direct evidence for Mahabharata. There is evidence Magoyum Samanu Prapto, but it has at least 6 to 8 different interpretations, and they are available in the literature. Varamir, when that all fails, Varamir, then that fails, then Atharva Veda Parishishta, and it goes on and on. Okay? We have a problem here. It's a patchwork. That's Viparyayo Mithyadnyanam Atadrupa Pratishtam. I'll quickly go through this. What has happened here? Professor Achar or Dr. Pandit, they have, and they admitted, they have not used any of this blue evidence. Arundhati Vasishtha observation, Bhishma Nirvana observations, or the observations of the seasons. There are 30 plus observations of the season during the 18 days of the war. It says it's a Sharad season. When they do the war, it's already Hemanta Rutu, by the way. Okay? So that's the challenge. I'll quickly go through this because I explained it. Now, this is the timeline. And now the question is, why is the original claim of Professor Raghavan, which they are sticking with, made in 3067 BCE in that region? If you ask, they will say we did not use the Kali Yuga beginning. Manish Pandit, would you agree that you did not use Kali Yuga beginning? You agree, right? Yeah. Okay, so does Professor Achar. Now I'm saying that actually the originally Professor K.S. Raghavan indeed used that as the original beginning. Okay, but I'll get back to that in a minute. Now what happened? Until like 2011 and 2013 or so, until my book was published, Professor Achar did not bother defining the time frame, like a limit. But because I had given 3-4 different limits, now he sort of woke up, and now he came up with one verse and said this verse leads to a time interval of 3200 BC to 1800 BC. In fact, he wrote an article at pragita.com That was the claim, and it says that particular verse from Udyog Parva 81.7 gives him 3200 BCE to 1800 BCE. In that partial write-up at the bottom, I will highlight that he makes a comment, there is no claim, meaning no claim made by him anywhere that Krishna went on the mission of peace in Hemanta. Dr. Pandit, would you agree? That is the claim. That is Professor Achar's writing in pragyata.com. Okay. Now, I am going to quote you Professor Achar from his book that actually Dr. Pandit distributes, and that's a good thing. Page number 26, this is the 81.7, that's the translation. I'm going to magnify that translation. It says, when the Sharad Ritu had ended and Hemanta Ritu was just beginning in the month of Kaumuda, we'll come to Kaumuda and Kartik in a minute. On the day of Revati Nakshatra, blah, 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 the hero, which is Krishna, left for Hastinapur. After the ending of the Sharad, when the Hemanta Ritu was beginning. Just on the previous page, he said he never referred to the claim that the timing was of a Hemanta Ritu. Okay? Alright, so that's a conflicting evidence. There are two claims made, that one I just said, and also it was a month of Kartika. These are our 6 seasons. Okay? This is what Mahabharata text is saying. This is one reference I said it does not corroborate 5561 BC, my date. I said it does not corroborate any other year. Now, against this Mahabharata text, it's saying at the beginning of the Hemanta Ritu, look where Professor Achar's date or 3067 Raghavan's date or Manish Pandit's dates fall. 26 September is when Krishna left. It falls at the beginning of a Sharad Ritu. Everyone sees the difference? Now, you will say only 2 months. Guys, if you understand astronomy, it's a 2 months, 60 days times 72. We are talking a difference of 4,000 plus years. And you will see what that happens. Now, what happens? You are claiming something, but you don't have evidence to support it. Shabda jnananupatu vastu shunyo vikalpa. It leads to confusion and delusion. Now, this is what Professor Achar is claiming. This is what Mahabharata is showing. Now, Professor Achar claimed something else. He said Kaumude should be translated as Kartika, and he makes a big fuss about me translating as a month of lotuses. Kaumude, it's a lotus. I said month of lotuses. It can happen anywhere depending on where it is. If you translate Kaumude as Kritika, and still stick with Mahabharata reference that it is the beginning of a Hemanta Ritu, do you know where it takes us? Mahabharata war happened in last 1500 years, after Buddha, after Kalidasa, after Aryabhata. Okay? So, I am just going to go fast through that just to get through the time, Quickly, 18 days of the war, very important. Now, so far, I said fraudulent, is it juvenile? I didn't say anything about the fraud yet. Now, the fraud comes, okay? So, this is the summary, the first time I just summarized it, okay? That doesn't match with what they are claiming. Udyoga 81.7. Now, this is the first day of the war. Now, they say that it cannot be the Amavasya. Here, I have 30 plus references. They are everywhere in my blog and whatnot. 30 plus descriptions of the phases and positions of the moon through the 18 days of the war. There are no descriptions of the moon for first 7 days. There are descriptions of the moon through 8, 9, 10, 11. And there are descriptions of the full moon through 12 through 19, even the time of Ashwatthama. Full of full moon descriptions. And there are many others that I will not go through. That consistently shows that it began on the Kartika Amavasya and it went through next the 18 days. But here is the fun. Now, quickly, because I don't want to lose my time, the 14th day of the war began on 22nd. The 14th day of the war stated here is 8 December. Guys, use your basic additional math. Is that number correct? Take 10 seconds. It's not correct. What it should have been? December 5th. It should have been December 5th. Okay? Now, is this just a quick, silly mistake? No. I brought this to attention of Professor Achar. I brought this to attention of Dr. Pandit, and they never responded. I brought it to their attention multiple times. I have the emails with Professor Achar to prove that. Okay? Absolutely nothing. Now, you wonder, it's just a silly mistake. No, it's not a silly mistake. You will see why. Okay, and thank you, Manish Pandit. You went through the 2:10 a.m. morning rise and so on and so forth, and also Balaram Tirtha Yatra. I loved that. Okay, the second error is Balaram returns on December 12th. What is the, if you start from 22nd November, what is the 18th day of the war? It's 9th December, guys. Okay, why 12th? Okay, that is 3 days after the war ended. So, the Balarama of Professor K.S. Raghavan, Balarama of Professor Achar and Dr. Pandit is simply not there to observe the fight between Duryodhan and Bhim. Okay? So, and the last problem, I'll quickly go there. First thing, the timing matches. They cannot show 92 days or more than 92 days. They have not rebutted in any fashion. They have simply ignored it. And lo and behold, why is Bhishma waiting? For the day of Uttarayan. They keep him waiting for 4 additional days. Do you know why? so that they can match the interpolated observation of Magha Shukla Ashtami. Okay? All right. So now let's get into those two big things. So first thing, the claim is that there is no reference to beginning of a Kali Yuga. See, this is Professor Achar writing. No external information such as the beginning of Kali Yuga is used. Now, do you know who made the original claim? Professor K. S. Raghavan, 1969. Okay. Now, all they have done is justified, saying, oh, yeah, that's correct. We have tested it and that's correct. Well, here it is, two big claims. First is that they don't use the assumption of the beginning of Kali Yuga in 3102 BC. Second one, the moon rise occurred at 2 a.m. on the 14th night of the war. In fact, Dr. Pandit clarified for us, it's 2:10. Let's see. Okay. So, the very basis I am saying of 3067 is the assumption of Kali Yuga. I would ask you to go there and download this book, The Date of the Mahabharata War and the Kali Yugadi. But here is what Professor Raghavan writes. Poor scholars, they should have searched for his date of birth, his meaning Krishna's birth date, near the beginning of a Kali Yuga era around 3100 BCE. Then they would have found out that he was born on 11:40 p.m. blah blah blah, 27 July 3112 BCE, when the planets were disposed as follows. And from there they went on to 3067. So it started with the Kali Yuga, the assumption of a beginning of a Kali Yuga. This also makes Krishna 45 years old at the time of the Mahabharata war. Now Krishna and Arjuna of the same age. Now there is enough evidence in Mahabharata text to tell you that Arjuna was 65 years old. He even says, I am holding this Gandiva for 65 years old. And that statement is also not exactly correct. It's not like he's holding from day one, but we'll move on. Okay. See, so what Professor Achar is claiming is that 14th or whatever that date was, 9th, the 14th day was the wrong one instead of 5. And so 5th December is the correct one, right? The 14th day. The 14th day of the war is the 5th December. Now look at the moonrise. Moonrise is happening at midnight, not 2:10. You follow? So now 8th December if you go, which is what they claim, which is already a forged, like twisting by 3 days. But it's also not 2:10, it's 3 a.m. And actually if you want around 2, that is on the 7th December. But if you go 7th December, you forge it, the problem is now the 18th day of the war will be 11th. I mean still wrong. And again now the Balarama cannot do that either. Okay. So all right. So now the Balarama. So 42 days. Okay. Now what Dr. Pandit said is for 3067 he can perfectly match it. I am going to show you here. Okay. So what is the scenario? If you start from Pushya, they are separated by 13 nakshatras, Pushya and Shravan. So that's easy. So Shravan here, another, the whole nakshatras there, and some signs are not showing. I don't know why. Some signs are not coming. But anyways, Pushya to Shravan, that's 42 days. Okay. Now on their scale, and you can check that the war started there. That Bharani nakshatra. And Dr. Pandit will agree that they claim it is a Bharani nakshatra. You start counting from there, or you can take any astronomy software, do mathematics, and you will find the last day, 18th day of the war, is on the Mula nakshatra, 3 nakshatras away from a Shravan nakshatra. I said I cannot corroborate Balarama Tirthayatra. Nobody else can. 3067 cannot do that. That is the evidence of it here. Okay. Now, so there are 2 dates forged, the 14th day of the war as well as the 18th day of the war, naturally, because the both observations cannot be verified. Quickly, you look at, I showed you this all evidence, and Dr. Pandit, to his credit, did admit that they don't look at all the evidence, in validating it. Well, that's wrong, scientifically speaking. But you know what happens? Vipariyo mithyadhyana tatrupa pratishtham. If you don't follow the right method, this is what happens. So they said, like the 2 cats and the monkey comes and takes the makhan from the both side kind of thing. So no, I cannot explain this, throw this away. I cannot explain this, throw this away, and throw this away, and throw this away. If you keep on doing this, you cannot explain anything. These are gone. No, you can't explain. These all can be explained for 5561 BC. The final one, Professor Achar tried, the Mars, and that did not work. And actually what happens for 3067, the Mars does go retrograde, but not near Jeshta Anuradha as they want. It goes retrograde near Swati and Vishakha. So even that one goes away. I'm saying if you don't follow the right method, you are left in the company of Shani, Rahu and Ketu. Eclipses and Shani. Okay, quickly. You look at ad hoc hypothesis, I mean nothing wrong with ad hoc hypothesis. 3067 has made it, but I'm not saying there is anything wrong with it. But if it's a revolutionary theory, it has certain expectation. It preserves the successes of the past. Multidisciplinary evidence tends to support that date. Truth likeliness score is very high. Truth likeliness score, verisimilitude score, that's a scientific term, which means if you look at all 300 observations, you simply say how many of them agree for your timeline, how many of them disagree for your timeline. The score, as I estimated, is for 3067 is 1 in their favor, 299 plus in their against them. For my timeline, 290 in my favor, 10 against me, and when I counted 10, I have been extremely liberal. I said, okay, this one also can go against me. Okay, thank you.
Right. So these are the blunders which are committed in 5561 BCE. There is a non-existent of a pre-war timeline. I've already shown you that. The observations because of an imagined Adhik Masa. There is a non-corroboration of Balarama's pilgrimage from multiple angles. Non-corroboration of the war timeline has started war on the Amavasya despite the eastern sky late night moonrise on 14th war night. Mistaken moon phase analogies for observations. If I told you that Purnima's face looks like a full moon, okay? The Nidhi's face looks like a full moon. Tomorrow I come over here and tell you that. The girl sitting next to her face looks like a full moon. Nilesh ji's face looks like a full moon. Of course, I come then day after that and tell you that. I say that this person's face looks like a full moon, the next day after that. हमारे यहाँ जितने भी लोग बैठे हैं ना, मतलब हर एक का face is like a full moon, okay? And I say this for 10 days. Does it mean that there is a full moon occurring in the sky? There is a new moon, Amavasya, occurring in 2 days' time. Do you see, this is what has happened in this 5561 BCE. These are those analogies, 25 analogies, which have been taken to supposedly corroborate the moon phase data. There is not a single astronomy observation in that, number one. Okay, anyway, we'll come to that in a second. There is non-corroboration of the Bhishma Moksha timeline. War started on the wrong day, and because it doesn't end in max of 58 nights of Magha Shuddha Shukla Ashtami. And as far as why the Bhishma is kept waiting on the for the 4 days after Uttarayan or winter solstice, I would like anybody over here, if somebody can tell me this, I will treat you to coffee straight away, okay? It will be a fantastic thing. One person, if one person can tell me why that observation is like that, okay? I only discovered it few days ago. So, there is an invisible solar eclipse from Kurukshetra, and no amount of delta T anything will shift it because of the declination problem. Saturn and Mars in the wrong position, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, everything seen with the naked eye, comets mistaken to be planets, speculations, etc., etc. Okay. How many times does conjecture appear in Sri Nileshok's book? I gave up counting after 50, but those are the sort of numbers over there. Anyway, fine. It is educated guesswork if you like. Now, the first one is the Adhik Kartika Masa to fit Balarama's pilgrimage and pre-war 10 observations, because otherwise Balarama's pilgrimage cannot take place. It's an imagined thing. Now, here is that particular Adhik Kartika from his book. Adhik Kartika, and then you got, and plus the sequence is wrong, because Kartika and Adhik Kartika it's coming. So actually it should be the other way around anyway if it was true. And then you see this Adhik Kartika. That, by the way, is the thing used to corroborate the seasons as well, Varsha and Sharad. So once you take that out, the whole thing falls apart. The whole timeline is gone. Okay, let me show you. This is actually the particular, all the new moons and full moons. So the full moons are over there. You can count the new moons, there are only 12. That is the vernal equinox which is occurring in 5561. That is the vernal equinox which is occurring in 5560. There you go, if you go over there, you got 13 full moons. That means that, what exactly? Let me show you. There is no Adhik Masa in 5561 or 5560 BCE. The full moon, Shukla part of the Paksha, accumulates till April 5560 BCE. The new moon, the Krishna part of the Paksha, final few days will accumulate till 5559 BCE. Only in 5559 BCE could there be an Adhik Masa. So this is basically gone. There is no Adhik Masa. The 10 pre-war observations, including Balarama's pilgrimage, are not taking place at all, actually. Okay, right. There is a conjecture of a dust storm hiding an earlier moonrise on the 14th night of the war. The problem is the late moonrise on the 14th night of the war, whichever way you imagine it to be, whether it's at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. or whatever it is, because you know you're taking all this simulator data to go back so many thousand years, 5,000 years. So there could be an hour or so difference in that anyway. But the point is, it occurs in the eastern sky. That's evidence of waning phase moon. Okay. So there's no question. So this moon is approaching the sun 4-5 days away from Amavasya. It is not towards the Purnima. It cannot be. Okay. Cannot rewrite the textbooks of astronomy just to suit you know, a particular theory. And there it goes over there. I mean, I agree, you know, that people may disagree with this sort of thing, but if you look at it, the moon and sun, this separation is growing lower and lower. So that moon has to be actually approaching an Amavasya. Basically that 14th night moonrise, which is in the eastern sky, cannot occur anywhere else because the eastern sky approaching the sun. So it is approaching an Amavasya. You can't fudge that. Okay. Now we come to the analogies, okay, of this last 7 days of the war. That's why are these analogies occurring only in the last 7 days of the war? Because the damn warriors only fall in the last 7 days of the war. Bhishma is alive till the 10th day of the war. Till Bhishma is alive, nothing much is happening, and Bhishma is always compared to the sun, he is never compared to the moon anyway, and he is not dying, mind you. He is falling on the, he is falling over there, okay, right, on the battlefield. So when do the key warriors of the epic die? Last 7 days, okay. So can analogies qualify as true observations of the sky? Let us show you what happens when if you try to do this. So these are those sort of analogies. Let me show you, and there is a whole host of them, 25, 28 analogies like that, or all the error elimination experiments. Now what happens? Right, here is Nilesh Oak's full moon at Kritika on the 12th day of the war. Here is the full moon at Vishakha on the 16th day of the war. There is the full moon at Punarvasu on the 17th day of the war. These are separated by months in real life. They are occurring all within 7 days. Is it even possible? Okay, let me go further. This is even better. Let me go on to this one. So now you have got the full moon on all days from 10 to 17. Okay, every day is a full moon. Aaj bhi full moon, kal bhi full moon. Abhi might as well have all 30 days full moon. क्यों मतलब कम क्यों करें? हर दिन फुल मून रखते हैं या हर दिन न्यू मून रखते हैं, नो प्रॉब्लम. लोग बोलेंगे भाई एवरीथिंग इज अ फुल मून, एवरीथिंग इज अ न्यू मून, नो प्रॉब्लम. ओके, नाउ द बेस्ट पार्ट इज दिस, द 3 lunar eclipses. It's not 2, 3, because over here you have got Arjun fighting Dushasan, and that is likened to full moon and being attacked by Rahu, which is also a lunar eclipse. Mind you, the lunar eclipse in 5561 BCE timeline has got to occur somewhere over there, and it's not, you know, it cannot be corroborated, number 1. Number 2, there are 2 omitted solar eclipses analogies on the 14th day by Ghatotkach when he is fighting Ashwathama, Ghatotkach when he is fighting Karna. Okay. So I mean, why were those omitted? So there is cherry picking going on over there. Okay. So you got full moon occurring in all those positions, and they are all being taken there. Only the warriors' faces. It's not like somebody is looking in the sky and saying that that is an observation. So that is the problem, that separation has not occurred. So we have to do that. Okay. On the 13th day of the war, Abhimanyu is killed. His face is compared to an eclipse moon. This is taken to corroborate the lunar eclipse occurring 2 days later. When does the lunar eclipse occur? Does it occur on the 13th day? Does it occur on the 10th day? Does it occur on the 16th day? No. How long does the lunar eclipse occur for? A few minutes. So how can you take it to basically say that there is a lunar eclipse again 2 days later or 5 days later or 6 days later? How can I take it like that? And plus, if I do that, well, why omit the 14th day analogies which indicate solar eclipses? And there you go, those are the verses. This is Gita Press edition particular, is just easier because you can see exactly over there that it is definitely a solar eclipse analogy. And isn't this absurd? Because the lunar eclipse anyway is not on the 13 days, it's on the 14th, 15th day of the war, right? Now these are all various other things which are taken. For example, Satyaki and Abhimanyu in one chariot on the 3rd day of the war is taken, like the moon and the sun is taken to moon, the sun and moon seen on the past Amavasya 3 days ago. Is Amavasya on every day? You know, so I mean these are the sort of analogies, and every day, okay. And then Vishakha is taken to mean Punarvasu, Punarvasu is taken to mean Punarvasu. Might as well name every nakshatra as we wish. No, I mean we can do that. I mean Vishakha, why would Vyasa say Vishakha if he means Punarvasu? right? I mean, if I know astronomy, I can say your face looks like the moon at Vishakha. Second day, your face looks like the moon at Punarvasu. I mean, does it mean that I am seeing a full moon at Punarvasu or Vishakha on those days? Simple. Anyway, so now we come to those error elimination experiments. They failed because no error was defined. Therefore, none was eliminated. In fact, you can only introduce errors. So this is what has happened in 5561 BCE, right? Now let me show you an example. In 5561 BCE, Jupiter and Saturn need to be near Vishakha according to chapter 3 verse 25 Bhishma Parva. So samvatsara sthayano cha graha prajwalita vubhau Vishakhayo samipastho Brihaspati Shanishcharo samipastho. Samipa, what is Samipa? In Jyotish, if I don't know, I mean my nakshatra is Hasta nakshatra samipastho is what? Is like 2 rashis away. People will say what kind of Jyotishi are you or what kind of astronomer are you, right? So it cannot be that far away, and see where it is. It is at actually the end of Hasta and the beginning of Chitra, okay? It is nearly a Rashi away, it's 25 degrees away, my God, and this is 55 degrees away, this Jupiter. Where is this Libra? Libra and Sagittarius. This is Vishakhaya Samipastho, Brihaspati Shanishcharo. But the main problem is actually not even that. Can any planet, howsoever bright, ever drown out the Saptarishis? Is it possible? Saptarishi udaharanam samavachchadya vaipravam graho tamrano shikhau. 2 grahas with shikhas. You have got to apply a little bit of knowledge over here. You can't just say everything is a planet. Can any planet ever drown out the Saptarishis? I challenge anybody to actually show one observation ever where the planet has drowned out the Saptarishis. But this is occurring in Brihat Samhita Varahamihira's treatise, chapter 13, verse 7. It says that this is used to show that if that is occurring, it can occur due to a comet, right? So these have got to be comets. Okay. Now, we've got another verse there, Kritikasu grahas tivro nakshatre prathame jwalan. Okay, again, so Sri Vartak actually was from Pune, wonderful man, and Sri Yoke, they conjectured that this Tivra graha is Pluto, which is invisible to the naked eye and is seen somehow. But the second part of the verse says the Tivra graha robs the Pleiad stars of the brightness with its light like a Dhumaketu or the sun. See the problem, so Pluto invisible to the naked human eye is outshining the Pleiad stars according to Sri Yoke's theory, right? Is it possible? Again, it's all in that chapter 3, which I'll try and explain if I'm given a bit of time. Now, can Mars be retrograde at Magha at the same time as Jupiter in Shravana? In 5561 BC, this verse, Maghassangarako Vakra Shravanechya Brihaspati is taken to corroborate Mars. But you know what astronomy absurdity is over here? You have to be 140 degrees away from the sun for either of these planets to be retrograde, which means that sun is going to be at 2 positions at the same time separated by 180 degrees, and that is going to be in Aquarius near Shatabisha and near Pushya and Cancer, both of which, well, nearly 150 plus degrees. It's impossible. So these are all impossible theories. Okay. Eclipses must occur prior to the war. In 5561 BC, they occur during the war, and the problem with that particular eclipse, the solar eclipse, is only viewed from Antarctica. It is not, there is no way that the eclipse can ever be shifted using delta t or any other calculation to anywhere else. So the solar eclipse has disappeared. Anyway, it cannot occur on Amavasya, which is the first day of the war, because I had already told you that the war can't start on Amavasya, right? And then we have got this Rahu approaching the sun, indicative of an eclipse in the near future, is the statement in Sri Yoga's book. Problem is the half statement is made by Karna to Krishna 7 days before the Jyeshtha Amavasya during the rite. So the question of a war starting, a question of any of the eclipses starting before this particular, during the war is not happening. Okay, anyway, right. There is actually what the critical edition is saying. So that is the critical edition. That is what is 5561 BC, and those are all wrong. Okay. Then you got the Ashtanavati conjecture, which of Sri Nideshoka of 98 days spent. Now, what is the problem with that? Because he is unable to corroborate the most important 58 nights observation of Bhishma himself, he dismisses Yudhishthira's testimony Alpashesha Dinanam Dakshinayana Bhaskare as trivial. He adds tens of extra nights spent by Yudhishthira to the timeline in 5561, 5560, and because of the war starting too early in that year, he is unable to resolve the conflicting 56-day observation of Krishna, misinterprets 4 days spent with Bhishma as 6 days, omits the Rohini Nakshatra, Magha Shukla Ashtami combination as the day of Bhishma Nirvana. And those are sort of the mistakes which are happening over there, because between this observation and this observation, there is nearly 50 days, well, 46 days, whatever added. So anyway, Alpam Sheshan Dinanante Dakshanayane Bhaskare Avritya Bhagavate Arke Gantasim Paramam Gitem. It cannot mean Alpam. Alpam is what? Few days. I mean, Alpam can't mean for 46 and 50 extra days on the bed of arrows. Okay. Anyway, okay, fine. Might as well. So you're coming to the conclusion of Sharadante Himagame as Varsha Ritu. I mean, you're basically saying that Kaumude Mase, that particular thing, the mission of peace, etc., is occurring in Varsha Ritu, correct? And okay, let me make a very yeah, okay, fine. So there is a particular verse over there which says that the southwest wind is flowing. If the southwest wind is flowing, then how is it even possible that this could be taken to mean the southwest monsoon is occurring?
Okay. So there is a reference when Krishna is leaving for Hastinapur and there was a storm, and the reference says it was due to the southwest wind, which is a Nairutya monsoon. Now that is the monsoon that we get on the western coast and coming up is a Nairutya monsoon. So that is a corroborative evidence. That doesn't prove anything. That's a corroborative evidence for Nairutya monsoon.
Okay, then the problem is that this is occurring in a chapter of Nimittas. So it is occurring in a chapter of Nimittas. So the problem is that how can this be a Nimitta that Varsha is occurring during Varsha Ritu?
Excellent. What if you notice what the problem is, because Dr. Pandit or the whole 3067 team is separating the things between this is a Nimitta, this is a Upamana, this is a Alankar, this planet is a comet, that comet is a planet. Honestly, that is the problem. Therefore, when they see something as a Nimitta, they say, okay, how this is the evidence? To me, if there is any description that either relates to the planets, to the positions of the, Tithi, Masa, seasons, that's astronomy evidence, because all of these are affected by astronomy. So my theory is, again, go back to the theory, and this is not limited to 3067 as you go through, explore other observations, but let's come back to 3067. You will struggle as they are struggling, because now did you hear, and I'm glad he mentioned something, then he went into astrology. Another thing he got stuck, he get into Varaha Mera. You have to decide, how does suddenly Varaha Mera comes into the picture? You have to decide your set of books. Because if it's a purely astrology theory, I have no problem, but then explain everything using astrology. Now he mentioned the comets, for example. So sorry, my apologies, I got into explanation. My question about the comets. So is it fair to say that you are saying, 3067 claim, that the what is that? Vishakhayo Samipasto Brohaspati Shaneshcharo are not the planets but the comets. Okay. So the follow-up question to that, in that case, for the year 3067 BCE, would you able to show 2 comets that can be noticed in the vicinity of Vishakha, staying there up to a year? Samvatsaras Thainancho Graha Prajulito Vibhav. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to see the proof. There is no proof. That's my claim.
Hale-Bopp comet is there, and it is seen exactly in that year, 2532.
Which one?
Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp is seen because it is 2532.
Near Vishakha?
Well, nobody can say whether it is Vishakha. You proved that it is not near Vishakha.
No simulation. No. The onus is on the one who is making the claim.
1 second. Can I just explain this? Please. Okay. Here is the peculiar problem. Comets, essentially, if you try and go back, there are some comets which the simulations will work and it is fine. With this particular comet, the issue is that it has been only seen twice before in the past, because it's got 2532 years, which is a huge span of time. So it is only seen 2 times back in the past. So last time it was seen as Sagittarius, okay, and it was seen for 260 days, which is a record. Okay, so it is been seen for approximately a year, And I am saying it was seen in 3067 BCE. Where exactly it was seen? Well, we are saying Vishakhayo Samipastho. If we use Nileshok's theory, Vishakhayo Samipastho, I mean, that comet is seen in Vishakhayo Samipastho. Okay, anyway.
So, okay, so the next question. So, you mentioned the solar evidence analogies and you said I avoided them, fair? Okay, I did not avoid them. You saw my score of 290 minus 10. So, anything that does not go, that it's into that 10.
Okay.
Okay. You want to go ask question?
Your solar eclipse is not seen from anywhere except Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So,
question is, how
do you
I
agree?
explain? Okay.
How
thank
do you
you.
explain?
Okay. So, for example, as you go back, especially beyond 2000 years like AD or especially 2000 BC, what happens to eclipses is this, and that applies to 3067 but everything else. If when you see a conjunction, okay, even the conjunction problems are there, meaning so the mathematical conjunction would say something else and actual conjunction would be different. In fact, Professor Achar has written a paper on it, okay, and there are many others. But what happens is if there is a conjunction, what we know for sure is a eclipse took place somewhere. What we don't know as we go back in time, why is that? Because of the most erratic motion of the moon. It's the most challenging motion, including Newton faced that. Okay, so two problems occurs. One is where exactly the eclipse would happen, which is to say where exactly it will be seen, and the second one is what would be the nature of that eclipse, like the full what you call the total solar eclipse or so. So that's my response to that.
But my counter question to that is that your answer is only partially correct, because I agree that the partial and total nature of an eclipse is almost impossible to predict when you're going back that long back in time. This is 7,000 years actually. And because I mean this is slightly educative as well for these people. So the delta T is the thing which is used to actually see what actually is happening way behind in the past. So delta T is basically the difference between the universal time and the terrestrial time. And this delta T, the error at 3000 BC itself is between 18.3 hours and 27.3 hours. But the problem is delta T will only shift celestial longitude. It will not shift. So you can shift it this way, but you can't shift it that way if you imagine the sphere. And that is the problem. So my follow-up is simply that delta T will not shift.
Fair, okay, and I would say I disagree with it. In fact, post this there is a paper that I have from a well-known astronomer, and I will make it in some form available, to see that how it changes in the both ways. Okay, my question to you, for example, the fraudulent timeline, the playing with the timeline that I mentioned, you did not address it. Do you plan to address it?
I will address it in the
Excellent.
future.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know whether I can address it in the next presentation, but definitely after.
In fact, only the next one. You cannot do in the last one.
No, I'll address the rest of the stuff, but I mean, I don't have time to prepare that particular.
No, verbally you can address. Okay. So my next question is, now regarding the eclipses, you are always saying that Mahabharata is very clear as to which eclipse occurred first, which eclipse occurred later, and so on. Would you quote the verses that clearly tell us which eclipse occurred first, which eclipse happened later, and when and why?
Somasya Lakshmi Vyavrattam Rahur Arkam Upeshyati.
What is the translation?
So the moon has basically become Nistej, and Rahur Arkam Upeshyati. So that has already occurred, and solar eclipse is going to occur. Rahur Arka Mupeshyati.
Okay. So the tense of the statement you are talking. Here is the comment on this. What happens is the Mahabharata text that we are seeing is written 18 years after the war. You can see many sentences which will go into the past. For example, Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samarohi Vishampate Uttaretu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshite. It has happened in the past. That's how it will occur. In reality, if you look at the time, and the 3067 cannot explain that. Shukram Proshtapade Purve Samarohi Vishampate Uttaretu Parikramya Sahita Pratyudikshite. I mean, I'll give you a chance. Okay. And so that particular observation, there it is said as if it has already happened. If you really look at it, it happened after the Mahabharata war, because all the observations that you see are Mahabharata war plus minus 1 years, and there is evidence for that right into the Mahabharata text. You want to ask a question or? Okay, all right. So fraudulent timeline, you will answer that. Are we close? 3 minutes. Okay. Now, would you agree, Dr. Pandit, that if there is a revolutionary theory, revolutionary claim that leads to new predictions, It doesn't solve all the problems. It leads to new predictions. 5561 BC has led to many new predictions. What are some of the new predictions that 3067 claim led to?
Well, 3067 BC, what we are trying to do over here is we are trying to make sure that all the phenomenon which are seen in the Mahabharata are actually separated out. You have to separate out the grain from the chaff.
Agree.
Yeah, you can't just take every observation and just say, oh, this is observation, that is, this is. I mean, yes, there are certain things which don't fit. Ushitva Sharvari Shriman Panchashan Nagarottame, I mean that 50 nights which are spent over there, that for example doesn't fit exactly in that particular timeline. I mean,
they
you
fit
know.
for mine, 5561 BC.
But your 58 nights timeline doesn't fit in that particular thing.
Okay, do you want me to explain it as a question?
No, so so because we'll come to that later, isn't
Yeah,
it?
sure.
I mean, we can come to that later.
But I will just say I can explain that 58 very well. Okay.
No, well, okay.
Do you want me to?
Can I then just address both and just say?
So you ask a question, then I'll ask a question. You know, you said that's wrong. Nilesh is wrong.
Okay.
Here
So
is the
how can you explain 58
very
nights?
good. Thank you very much. So on the when Krishna goes to Yudhishthira, Krishna goes to Bhishma the first day that they meet, you know, after the war is over, he's saying Panchashatam Shatcha Kuru Pravira Shesham Dinanam Tava Jivitasya. You have got 56 more days to live. Okay. After that, for 4, 5, 6 days, there is that back and forth between Yudhishthir. Then on the 6th day, Yudhishthir is, the Bhishma says Vishnu Sahasranam to Yudhishthir, and now he says go back to Hastinapur. And then the verse comes after a few verses. He says now Yudhishthir went back and lived there. That is the verse he referred to, for 50 nights. And when it was Uttarayan, he came back now to 58. 56 days he says you have extra 56 days. Now just imagine the Uttarayan, meaning the day Bhishma Nirvan is one day after Uttarayan. So that is exactly when it has turned back. So that's day. And you know, when we talk, and so Krishna is saying 56 more days, he may or may not have counted the day he is talking. So now Bhishma might be referring to those 58 days. There is an alternate explanation for that 58 days, which I just, you don't have to agree. That is the alternate explanation. On the other hand, when you add those minimum of 92 days, there is no way to hide from the minimum of 92, and that every other Mahabharata researcher is forced to do for their date.
I disagree. Can I just add a very quick comment on that? The Ushitva Sharvari Shriman Panchashan Nagarottame Samayam Kauravagrasya Sasmara Purusharshaba. That particular verse which is occurring as including all the other nights which have been spent. Nowhere actually it says, see, that the Hastinapur Kshetra is not this particular 50 nights. So the problem which I have with this particular thing is that the Ashtapanchashadaratraya Shayanasya Dehagata, that particular verse is Bhishma's primary evidence. How can you ignore Bhishma's primary evidence? This is my objection to it.
Okay. I'm not ignoring Bhishma's primary evidence.
You're providing a different.
I'm coming. So why it is a Bhishma's primary evidence? Like what is your crux?
Because Bhishma has said it.
Nice. Now let me tell you, the Masam Ekam Bahipurat, Panchashatam Shatcha Kuru Pravira Shesham Dinanam Tava Jivitasya, or the verse that he quoted, all of these verses, if you go into the text, at the beginning, as the story is narrated, it says Vaishampayan Uvacha. Okay. So of course, Vaishampayan is saying now Krishna said, now Bhishma said, now Soman said, but it's all Vaishampayan Uvacha. Let's not, and you're not the alone. I have seen these objections before. We will only look at what Krishna said, we will only look at what Bhishma said. Well, that is like saying, I'll take what suits me, I will reject what doesn't suit. That's why again, I'll take you guys, not just for the 3067, you must go and ask everyone, what is the universal and generic statement of your theory for your claim? You will not get the answer.
I would just like to say that there are two, my point was simply, limited point was that there are two conflicting timelines. That is the issue. That two conflicting timelines, if you actually take certain verses, if you take the other verses, and that is the problem.